Hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Money in the Morning with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I wanted to come out and say hi to everybody. Um, I also wanted to answer some of your questions about financial stuff and what's going on in the stock market, stuff like that. Kind of give you some thoughts that were on my mind today. Let you know about some opportunities that are out there, things like that. And also, I'll mention toward the end, I'll give kind of a profit alert in terms of a stock that I actually like, that I'm going to invest in, that I think can actually do pretty well. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me all right. Let me know if you can hear me, if I'm coming through okay. And let's get it cracking. Today's Saturday, August 19th. And so it's Saturday morning. And I also like to enter and do Q&As and stuff like that. If anybody has questions, if you have a question, make it like a quick question if you can, like a one sentencer kind of question that kind of helps me to answer the questions quickly. Okay, so I see. Great morning. Good morning. Okay, thank you. Good morning to you too. So good to see everybody. All right, so yeah. So right now, let me see. I'm going to pull the stock market up. The Dow, I believe it's yeah, it's been going okay a little low. Can you hear me? Okay, I'll talk loud. That way you can hear me. Um, yeah, so let me see here. Market in correction as Nvidia earnings and Powell's speech. Okay, so this is from Investors Business Daily. Hopefully they'll let me read the article. They said Dow Jones futures will open Sunday evening along with the S&P 500 futures with Nvidia earnings and a big speech from the Fed ahead. Let's see, Friday could be just a short-term bounce. Investors should wait for sustained strength. Nvidia. Okay, this is too convoluted. All right, so let me see if I can find something more direct. Yeah, last week I remember seeing some. I think you had about 3 straight days, at least 3 straight days of market declines. Buy, sell, or hold in the current market. Long term, I'm a buyer. I just am, especially when we talk about stocks like Apple suddenly being on discount. Let me see Apple's stock price right now. It's 174. It's dropped 10% this month, so it dropped about $20, but it's up 40% this year. So it's hard to argue that Apple is suddenly going to forget how to make money. The last 5 years, Apple's gone up about 222%. A lot of times, though, the companies that did really well in the last 5 years are not going to necessarily always repeat the next 5 years, right? So while we might think that it makes sense to predict that a stock that's going to, that went up the last 5 years is going to keep doing that, that's just not true. The data does not support that. That's not what research says. Where's the link for the Africa trip? We have not signed the contract yet, but we are going to go to Africa next year. It's so funny, like people, people that are, that have funny stuff to say online. They said Dr. Boyce wants to hang out with white people. He was over in Iceland hanging out with the white people, and I said, no, I go to all the countries, dumbass. Anyway, so next year we're going to Africa, and yeah, so if you want to join us in Africa, you're welcome to come hang out with us. And as soon as we sign the contract and make the deal. When we release something, we try to spend a lot of time really vetting it. You got to be careful about, think carefully about who your business partners are going to be. Make sure everything's legit. And we found a company that we think is a great partner to take a trip over to the continent. So that's what we're going to do. Are you live on YouTube also too? Yes, I am. I go live on multiple platforms at the same time. That way we can kind of kill multiple birds with one stone. And let's see here. Another question. By the way, you guys can ask me any question. I like answering questions. Have you ever heard of Black Youngster, the rapper? He just lost his third brother to gun violence in Memphis yesterday. Yeah, I've heard of Black Youngster, and I'm very sorry to hear that. Yeah, I think that you got to realize that your hip hop got hijacked. Like your hip hop. I think it's not. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to believe that. That if they had private prisons they had to fill up during the when Biden was pushing for all those prisons, it's not out of the question to expect that they would use rappers to market their prisons, because every study shows that black people listen to celebrities more than anybody else. So if you're building prisons and you need people to put in the prison, well, you're not going to put white people in the prison. You're not going to put white women in the prison. You're going to look for black people. That's what they do, right? So they say, oh, well, black people, they listen to rappers. So we're going to go and pay money to the rappers who will do anything for money, sell out their own mama for money, and because they're trying to bling and shine and all this other stuff. and just pay them money to promote violence and killing and drugs and everything that's going to send black men to prison. That and then 20 years later, you got prisons full of black people. Surprise, surprise. All right, let's see. If I missed your question, just repeat it because somebody said you didn't answer my question, but I didn't see your question, so I'm so sorry for that. Just put it in there again. And let's see here. Someone says because we are 100 years behind. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Next question. I'm looking here on Instagram. So you guys know, sometimes I may not see the question. So yeah, ask me anything. So right now, I think this is a great time to buy. I'm not telling you to buy, but I'm telling you this market looks really good right now. And actually, I think that there was a study that said in the last 30 something years, you've had 10 times where the market rose by more than 10% in the first 6 months. And in every single one of those times, the market ended the year positive, on a positive note. Now, somebody asked a question about BRICS. What do I think about BRICS? I think BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. I think it's good for them to do that. I think they should stand up against the United States, but it's going to take them a long time because the United States is very strong economically. For America, capitalism and money is like a religion. And because we pretty much worship money in this country, we're really good at obtaining it. So that power is pretty strong. Do you think the market will reach record highs after next month? Possibly. I don't know for sure. It really comes down to how whether the Fed announces that they're going to stop raising interest rates. If they do that, then I think that's going to be a positive catalyst. But there's also some storms around the corner. The real estate market is one storm that could really hurt the economy bad. Market buffooning and bottoming and correcting. Yeah, the market was going to correct because it was doing so well before. Any info on high yield accounts? Not much to say about that. I mean, right now is a good time to invest. I mean, you could invest your money risk free and do really well right now because interest rates are so high. So Apple. I think the Apple savings accounts are paying over 4%, something like that. I don't have one because Apple's slick. Apple will get you to deposit all your money in there so they can then give you an Apple credit card and get the money right back. So just know I don't. So I'm not a big fan of like Apple savings accounts. What companies do I like right now? Let's see. Nothing particularly comes to mind. One company called AppLovin, AppLovin. That's a company that I'm going to invest in. I send out profit alerts regularly. If you'd like to get those, just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. If you text stock to 31996, I'll send you profit alerts at least once or twice a week, and just kind of let you guys know if I see anything that can help you. Is it true August and September have shown to be the worst months to invest? I think that there's something about August. I think it has to do with vacation or something. So yeah, I can't remember the research studies, but I do think, Albert, there is something to that. I don't remember what it is exactly. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Give me a yes if you can hear me. I'm talking to my friends on YouTube. Do you think China real estate crash will affect us? Yes, it already has. China has some major companies that have been going bankrupt lately. It's kind of a shit show over in China, so you gotta be careful. Can you explain more about the real estate in the near future? Yeah, the commercial property market is a mess in some major cities like LA and Seattle and stuff like that, especially places that overdid it during the pandemic. But the New York real estate market, same thing, pretty bad. Not bad all the way around though. But what's going to happen is that a lot of these companies that have these leases on commercial property are not going to pay their leases, or they're going to get out of their leases. And then the banks are going to get hit. Once the banks start getting hit, you have a liquidity problem. When you have a liquidity problem, that's when your economy is kind of in trouble. That's when you're going to have some issues. This says to me that there's a probability that the Federal Reserve, if they see any cracks in the system, liquidity wise, they may stop hiking interest rates and start lowering interest rates, which is their way of pushing liquidity into the market. When they start doing that, then if you're in the stock market, you're probably going to make a shit ton of money because when the Fed starts pouring money into the economy, prices go up. They have a saying that says, don't fight the Fed. And that means basically the Fed, our economy is kind of a controlled economy. So the Federal Reserve is the central banker to the world. When they decide that stuff's going to slow down, it slows down. When they decide stuff that the party's going to keep going, then the party keeps going. All right, so and the problem is they kept the party going for 15 years, and people got used to it. And so when they took it away, they freaked out. Is it good or bad to have a lot of stocks or just like a core five? It depends on how you look at it. But generally speaking, the theory says that owning about 20 to 25 different stocks is a good number to have if you want to consider yourself to be diversified. Um, let's see here. I see Ricky from Atlanta, Mimi from Napa, California. Oh, Napa Valley. Thank you for giving us your time for free. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to do this. I love talking to y'all. Yeah, and I actually like my new Instagram page a little better. I had the other one that had 400 and something thousand people, but I could have swore like 80,000 people were bots, and it was just so irritating. So even though they shut down my Instagram page, I don't know what I did. I think I read a Dr. Claude Anderson book, and whenever you start talking about black stuff too much, that they define that as hate speech. But I'm not going to stop doing it. So one of the things I'm doing to kind of deal with that is we're on Telegram now. So if you'd like to join my Black Investors channel on Telegram, and I'll send you lots of free stuff to make it worth your while. Just go to drboycetelegram.com. This is free to the community. So just consider that to be something we're offering from the Black Business School that'll hopefully help you in your wealth building journey. All right. So one other thing that crossed my mind today was I was thinking about companies like Target and Bud Light and others. Or Bud Light's not a company; it's a brand that's part of Anheuser-Busch. And I was thinking about how these companies are getting hammered stock wise because they were trying to get too political. Anheuser-Busch stock. Oh my Lord Jesus! Let me see. Anheuser-Busch stock. Their stock price. Let me see if I can find it here. Their stock has just done terribly. Why can't I find the chart? I just want to see the market watch. Okay. Let me see if I can find the chart here. Here we go. All right, Anheuser-Busch. It's not done bad this year, about 6%, but the last 5 years it's dropped by 43%. And Bud Light is owned by Anheuser-Busch, and they did that whole trans ad or something, and so the conservative backlash has been pretty terrible, and I don't think they're ever going to recover. Also, you had Target. Target did their little thing, with the whole Pride display, and their backlash is pretty strong. Target stock has been in the toilet lately. So Anheuser-Busch has gone down by 43% in the last 5 years. Target stock, they went up a little bit yesterday, but for the most part, year to date, Target's down 13%, which is really bad considering that so much money was made this year. So many companies were blown up, and Target was going in the opposite direction. So they lost 21% this year, but they've gone up 50% in the last 5 years. So it hasn't been a horrible long-term investment. But what a lot of people are questioning is whether or not companies should get involved in politics. I don't think they should. I think they should just, if you make coffee, like Starbucks makes coffee, it doesn't have to be like gay pride coffee or Black Lives Matter coffee, or whatever. Like, because what happens is that when you do that, then you get distracted from your primary goal, which is to make a profit for your investors by selling coffee. So, and also you become, what's the word? Almost trapped by your audience, right? People start to expect you to give up billions of dollars to take these different stands on different issues. And so like with Starbucks, after they, kind of pretended to be liberal, which they really weren't, the workers said, okay, well, since you're so liberal, we're going to form a labor union. And then Starbucks was like, no, we don't want you to unionize. And, because that actually is going to cost us money. And so then Starbucks employees started getting pissed off because they felt like they were just kind of being lied to. And they were. I think Starbucks should have just made coffee and that's it. Let's see. Can you really be a stock market analyst if your passion plus, wait, hold on. Can you be a stock market analyst if it's your passion, plus if you really have a good diversified portfolio yourself? Yeah, I mean, you can get training on how to be a stock market analyst and stuff like that. Like, there's plenty of stuff you can do. I am not really like an analyst. But as a professor, you teach people that become analysts. Like I've taught stockbrokers and people that become stock market experts, because the way I learned about the market was on a very deep, deep level. Like I know the mathematics behind the statistics behind the development of stock prices, and so that's one of the reasons why, like when I wrote my book and stuff, the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, it was all based on like all these things that you think are not connected to economics, but they're deeply connected. And that's because I spent 30 years thinking about this stuff on a very, very deep level. You can't get a PhD and just bullshit your way through. Like, you have to understand this stuff to the core of the core of the core, right? And that's why we're taking like math, PhD level math classes. You would say, well, what does that have to do with the stock market? It has a lot to do with it because you have to understand probability distributions and theoretical mathematics and all kinds of crap. It's kind of crazy. And so anyway, I want to talk more about that, but we talk about that more later if you have any questions. You are a teacher. Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate that. I like teaching people that want to learn stuff, especially people that look like me, because I think that if black people do one thing, like if we just get our economics right and really commit to teaching our kids about economics as much as we teach them about basketball and stuff like that, we'll kill it. We will murder the game. You're going to have a level of black power that you can't even imagine. Like, because power in America, power is based on where you stand economically. Even if you can't economically dominate other people, if you're at least in a position where you can economically defend yourself, that's the problem. It's not that you're not dominating others, it's that you can't even defend yourself. They'll come in there, they can buy your kids, they can buy your wife, they can buy your family. They can literally pay their way into your culture, right? And the Jewish community doesn't have that problem. They're economically fortified. You can't go into some of their neighborhoods, and some of the neighborhoods, they're like, no, you can't come up in here and buy property because we don't need to sell it to you. We don't need the money. You can't come in and just hire my kids. No, I got my kids. I'm taking care of my kids. You can't buy my child and do whatever. Black kids are for sale. Black people are for sale. Seriously, think about this. Yeah, think about how many times you see people doing just the most ridiculous, heinous stuff just because they can't get enough money to pay their bills, can't get enough money to survive. Whose fault is that? Who did that? Well, if you go back and you start from the beginning, again, this is what I can share with you. This is how I see the world as as a professor. This is what you do. You look at the origin of things. So when I see a 28-year-old who is selling booty because she can't pay the bills, I go back, I rewind 28 years and start when she was a baby and say, were your parents teaching you things as a baby that were going to prepare you for the difficulty of being a black woman in this world who ain't got no damn money and who doesn't know how to get it, doesn't have any of the skills to survive? Like, I don't think it's that complicated. I think that's how you solve a problem, right? Because if you go back, I saw this video. It was a cute video, but the daddy was trying to teach the little girl how to hula hoop. And he said, okay, so wiggle your hips. And she starts she starts dancing like a grown-up, right? Wiggle, Cardi B hip wiggling, and it was cute and funny. But it was like, I made a smart aleck comment. This is the kind of stuff that makes people mad at me. I said, this little girl's clearly a genius. And instead of like teaching her like genius stuff like math and economics, somebody taught her how to wiggle her booty like a stripper, right? That takes genius too. A 3-year-old can't do Cardi B moves, right? Unless somebody teaches them that. So that's, so I'm telling you, I put this on everything. If you get your economics right, people won't really be able to mess with you like they can now. Negroes are always for sale. Black people can be purchased like Nike sneakers. We can be bought like a new car. Like they say, how many Negroes do we need? Well, let's go get some money, and then we can buy their leaders, we can buy their entertainers, we can buy the mother, we can buy the father, we can buy the kids, and we can have more control over their community and their households than they do. So you don't have to economically dominate anybody else. You just have to be able to economically defend yourself and control your space, your territory. You can't buy my damn kids because I got that. My kids are good. They don't need you in order to eat. You can't buy my woman. No, I got my woman covered. My woman got what she needs. You can't you purchase her time without me talking to you about it. She's not gonna go give you her time or her body or whatever just because you have money that I can't provide, right? So just I encourage, I'm just telling you, I'm screaming from the rooftops. I hope people will listen. If you just do basic things to economically fortify your family and create a culture that does that, then you're going to find you have a whole lot more freedom than even most white people have, because capitalism enslaves white people too, in case you don't know. Do you see more pain coming in September? I don't know. It comes down to the Fed. I think if the Fed says they're going to stop raising interest rates, I think that's going to be a good thing. The real estate market is really distorted right now. Real estate prices are super high. People don't want to sell their houses because why? Well, because if they buy a new house, they got to pay a higher rate. and also people can't afford houses as much because the rates are so high and the prices of homes have gone up and the supply has gone down. I don't understand why people wouldn't sell though in this market, because if you sign for a new house with a higher rate, you can always refinance once the rates get better. So you're not really locked into anything, right? So I would say, um, that the real estate market, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because that could be a bubble that bursts. I think also you have people that are trying to have to repay their student loans again. That could be an economic headwind that could slow things down. But the economy is pretty strong. The economy's strong. The consumers are pretty resilient. Um, it's not a. I don't see anything tragic in front of us. Like, I think the bad months are pretty much behind us for now. Should I invest in Fundrise? I don't tell anybody what to invest in. Just like I did not tell anyone to invest in the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. I said, just like, for example, because I know people said, well, Dr. Boyce told us to do it. I said, no, I told you that I do it. I did it, and I was very happy to support a black-owned business. But the reason you have to consider investing carefully is that investing always involves a risk. There's always a chance you can lose money. 86% of black-owned businesses fail, but I continuously support them, because if you stop trying, then guess what? White people make all the money. White people have all the power. White people control your life. So that's my belief. What are my personal favorite tech stocks? My personal favorite tech stocks are let's see. I think Amazon's really good with AI. I just looked into Cisco Systems lately. That's another CISCO. What's another tech? Nvidia. Nvidia made me a ton of money. I like Nvidia a lot. And I think maybe this might be a good time to buy in. I'm not telling you to do it, but you could. Tesla's really good with technology and AI. Microsoft. So those are some that I like. Would I invest in Fundrise? I I like it. I don't dislike Fundrise. It doesn't seem to have a bad reputation or anything. Let's see here. I'm proud of who I am. I am an honest, powerful person. Well, good for you. Let's see. Next question. It's my first time watching you, and I'm appreciative of any advice and honesty on what's really going on. I'm just starting out and wondering what's best to start with. Okay, Mimi. Well, first of all, welcome. Everybody say hello to Mimi. Welcome, Mimi. Yeah. So the biggest thing I would say about investing is don't overthink it. That's what kills people. That's what causes people to miss the money. You don't have to overthink it. They have literally taught monkeys how to invest. There's a book called by Burton Malkiel called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. He taught monkeys how to invest. Um, so one thing you could do is I would look at the $5 a day investing plan that we have. It works for everybody. And again, I made it for black people, but you don't have to be black to benefit from it. You just have to, care enough to want to listen to smart people and not get upset because we're black. So I say that because I think B1 people are the smart ones. Like we're better at investing than anybody else. And so if you want that for free, you don't have to pay for it or anything. Just text the word stock to 31996. Just text stock to 31996, and I'll give you kind of an introduction to investing. Also, there's a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working, things like that. So yeah, don't overthink it. A lot of investment advisors will give you fancy words to to impress you. They feel the need to make you think they're smart, so they will talk over your head deliberately and talk about complicated strategies that'll make your head spin. And I don't have to do that because I'm very confident in what I know. Getting my PhD was really hard. I was the only black person on the entire planet to get a PhD in finance in 2002 when I graduated. There was not one other black person, male or female, to do it. So that's how hard it was. So when you get really good at something, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. I don't have to prove to anybody that I understand what I understand. Either you believe me or you don't. And so my goal is not to impress you with fancy words. My goal is to break it down to make it as simple as possible so you'll understand how to overcome your fear. Fear is an absolute wealth destroyer. Fear will destroy your peace. Fear will destroy your life. So what I just really want you to do is not let fear stop you from making the moves that are going to put you where you want to be. Fear of what people are going to think, fear of what can go wrong. Yeah, when you invest, things can go wrong. But here's the other thing too. Let me just think about it like this. I talk to my kids about what I want them to do in their future. And when I say my kids, I'm talking about my biological daughter to my adopted kids to my stepkids, so-called stepkids. They're all my kids. I don't use step and god kid and all that. No, these are all my kids. So when I talk to my kids, I pretty much tell them, I'm like, well, You could go work for other people if you want to get a career and a job and all that and do what everybody else does. But that's not fun. That's not as much fun as living the life you're supposed to live. You're not supposed to live for the plantation, for the corporate plantation. You're supposed to live for yourself. So I tell them, I'm like, okay, there are a million different ways to make money besides a job. In fact, a job is the worst way on earth to make money. And the reason it's the worst way on earth to make money is because you're working harder than everybody else and you have nothing to show for it. I mean, it's not like you work your ass off. Think about it. Think about how many people you know that work their ass off for 40 years and have nothing, have less money at the end of the 40 years than they had when they started. That doesn't make any sense. You know? And so to me, if you're going to bust your ass, you should be a millionaire because you busted your ass. You should be wealthy because you busted. So I said, look, you know, working a job is hard. Starting a business is hard. Being an investor is hard. So you have to choose your hard. Which hard thing are you going to do? Are you going to do the hard thing that gets you no rewards, or the hard thing that where you might actually come out on top? You know? So again, I'm not trying to oversimplify that process, but I really think that there's so many different ways to make money that I encourage you to learn all of them, not just the whole, like, I'm going to go get a job and they're going to pay me enough money to stress out. And do you understand? I did a podcast the other day where I was explaining just how jacked up this economy is, how crazy it is. Because here's what happens. When you look at the economic weather from the top, I'm training to be an airplane pilot now, so it's kind of cool when you're flying over cities and you see them from above as opposed to driving through it. And I was flying over all the traffic and looking down at all the cars that were in these traffic jams. Or it would take me like 20 minutes to get somewhere that took my wife 2 hours to get to because the traffic was so bad. Now, you know, I was kind of making fun of her for that. But anyway, so when you look at the economy from the top, it looks very different from what it looks like, you know, when you're kind of on the ground. And so when you're watching financial shows where there are investors on the stage and in the audience, millionaires that have made a ton of money without doing any work, they'll always say, almost all the time, the American economy is strong and we're doing really well economically and the economic weather is good, right? And but then you go and read another study that will basically tell you, and I broke this down actually on my channel, drboycetv.com, and also I have a podcast on Spotify. Just look me up on Spotify and you can find it there. And I cited a study I saw that basically said a few things. I'm trying to remember what it said. It said, number one, people are supposed to only spend, let's say, 28-30% of their rent or of their money on their rent. That number is actually more like 50 to 60%. Like people, like the rent has just gone up and up and up and the wages haven't gone up. They talked about car notes. Like your car note, the average car note on a new car is like over $700. A lot of people are spending over $1,000 on car notes. They were talking about the price of food. They said the FDA says you're supposed to only spend this much of your income on food, but people are spending that much of their income on food. They all the way across the board, the American consumer was pretty much drowning. Like they were in water up to here where you're turning your nose up and you're barely able to breathe because the cost of everything has gone up, but the wages haven't gone up. So people are going deeper in debt just to survive in this economy. And at the same time, you've got people on CNBC talking about how resilient and how strong the American economy is and how great things are. So there's a disconnect between the reality of investors and the reality of workers. The workers are getting screwed. The worst thing I would do, if I was a person who believed in abusing my kids, I would train them to become workers, and that's it. I would just say, go get a good job and not talk about investing or whatever, because that's abuse. You know, so what I would say is that jobs are not an embarrassment. I don't want to job shame, but I think everybody who wants to survive in this new economy has to go outside of the box. You gotta find a way to make your money without it just being the simple, like, get a job and get one income model. That doesn't work. So here are a few little unconventional wealth hacks that you probably know about, but they're not really promoted as much as they should be. Number one, people, they clown stuff like relationships and marriage and don't understand that relationships are a survival technique. Because me and my wife have two incomes and two people running the household, and we're able to tag team and share the responsibility. My wife is upstairs in the bed right now, sick as a dog, and I'm running the house. I'm getting the kids to bed and making sure they're fed and taking food up to her and giving her breakfast when she's in the bed in the morning. And if I wasn't here, if she's this single mom who's doing it all by herself, she'd be trying to like do all this while she's sick. That's terrible. So things like relationship management, and again, I talk about that in my book. My book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. If you want to see my books and everything, my website is boycewatkins.com. There's resources there. Some of them have a fee, but a lot of them are free. Just go to my website. I've shared everything I could think to share. But literally, like managing relationships, which I talk about a lot in my book, that's a wealth strategy. Because if you have good relationships with other people, then you have people that will have your back. And it doesn't just have to be a spouse or a partner, even though that's kind of a primary traditional method. It could just be the kind of friends you have, or an investment club, or roommates. Like, I think every millennial and beyond, anybody who's under 35, if you're struggling with the economy, take the time to vet out 2 or 3 cool ass people that you can live with, and then make an agreement to all chip in a certain amount of money and go get y'all a nice place to live. It could be an apartment at first and then move up to a house, or it could even be a house. Because they were talking about how the rent, the amount of rent that people are paying in America is at an all-time high, and the percentage of rent that they pay as a percentage of their income is at an all-time high. And I noticed in their study, I said, you're assuming that all these people are single. You're assuming that all these people are doing it by themselves. Well, yeah, if you're doing it by yourself, the numbers are terrible. But if you've got just one person helping you, then you engage in what we call in economics, we refer to this as economies of scale. And thank you, Mimi. Have a wonderful day. Very nice to meet you. Welcome to the platform. I hope to see you again. So economies of scale means that, okay, if I get together with my wife and let's say our income doubles, our expenses are not going to double. Our expenses might go up maybe 20% because we're sharing the same house and we're splitting the mortgage and all this other. What does that mean? Well, that now gives us wiggle room to have that extra 30-40% to save and invest that we wouldn't have if we were trying to fund 2 separate households. You understand? So I'm going to tell you this. I think marriage, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't have to necessarily be between 2 people, or a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, where you have somebody that you're doing the oochie coochie with, having sex with. I think that you can also have just agreements with people where you economically marry each other. Like, look, you're solid, I'm solid. You keep your commitments, I keep my commitments. Let's help each other out. It doesn't, who we're screwing has nothing to do with the fact that we're going to share these bills and these responsibilities and help each other survive economically. I think that's a good model. I knew a lady who did this. She was actually a doctor, and she had another friend that was a doctor who happened to be a gay man. He had boyfriends. She had boyfriends too. And they lived together. They traveled together just like husband and wife. And they really lived like an extravagant lifestyle, because when they pulled together their salaries, they were able to afford, like, I think they even had an apartment. They didn't even buy a property. They just had an apartment, but the apartment was like $7,000 a month because they could afford it together. But individually, they would have had a hard time doing that, right? So I would encourage you to think outside that box. I also think everybody should have a side hustle. I just think you should tell your kids over and over, you got to have a side hustle. You got to have a side hustle. Never have one stream of income. Always have a side hustle. And so you can form like things like side hustle groups where you get together with other people once a week. I do this with my kids. We have a family business meeting once a week where we talk about what we're doing, and we just talk. There's no agenda like, okay, everyone must do this and must do that. No, it's like, just get there on time and let's love each other. Let's connect. Because the more we connect, the more we trust, the more we can partner together on things, because you know who I am, I know who you are. And so it starts with love. Love is the most beautiful glue in existence when it comes to bringing human beings together. If you can convince someone else that you love them, and they convince you that they love you, then at that point you can build on top of that, right? So love, I have found, is the ultimate wealth creator of the universe. My brother loves the shit out of me. I love him. Why? Well, because I changed his diapers when he was a baby. My mother forced us to bond by doing something that I thought was terrible at the time, which was having me babysit him 8 hours a day while she was at work. Now, was she thinking long term about the bond and all that? No, she wasn't. She was trying to. She just couldn't afford a babysitter. And so I was complaining. I was mad. I didn't like it because I couldn't go out and play with my friends. But me and my brother became like this, super tight, super tight. So years later, when I started my business and I could not afford to hire anybody to help me, my brother wanted to come work with me because we've just been so connected at the hip. And he's been the person that has rode with me all the way to this day. My brother and I have worked together for 17 years, and we have made millions of dollars together. I could not have done that without him. The whole time as I'm dealing with a crazy world where you should see the world from where I stand. You don't know who to trust. You have people constantly coming at you for weird reasons and stealing from you and lying to you and manipulating you and all this other stuff, to the point where it's very traumatic. Like, you really have to kind of figure out like how to trust people, because it can make your heart go dark, because you're like, I did things for this person and look at how they're acting, right? But through all of that, the one consistent variable was my brother. My brother, I never had to look over my shoulder with him. I always knew he had my back. Whether I was on top or on the bottom, whether I had money or didn't have money, he was going to always be there. So when people start talking about family like it's like a nuisance, or like family's not a big deal, or kids are just a burden, no, those kids are an asset to your life. If you raise your damn kid, if you have a bunch of kids, I see my friend Tim Jackson. Is that Trent? Oh, Trent Jackson. I'm sorry. What's up, Trent? I thought my friend Tim Jackson was in there. Tim has like a bunch of kids. I think 2 or 3 kids now. And I'm just telling you, like, you raise those kids right, and you treat them well, you teach them well, and you teach them codes of conduct and behavior. That can become a huge benefit to within a decade, within less than a decade, actually. They can become a huge benefit to you accomplishing your personal and economic objectives. For example, my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, that's what it's called. If you ordered my book, if you go to boycewatkins.com and order my book, my kids are the ones who will be shipping the book to you. And I'm not even their biological dad. I'm their bonus dad. But as their bonus dad, which is an honor to me, it's a privilege. I know, and this is something I talk about openly, because I remember guys that were saying, they're literally, it was real weird. They were calling me a simp. And guys I didn't even know, people I'd never even heard of, were like, oh, he's simping because he's taking care of these kids and they ain't even his. And I'm like, you don't understand. These kids have made me millions of dollars. And that's not why I take care of them. But these kids that I spent time with, that I mentored, they now work with me. And it's a win-win, right? They're helping me to get something done, and I'm teaching them skills that are going to benefit them for the rest of their life. This should be the common interaction in the Black community. This should be our standard in how we engage each other. Young people in your community are assets. Why in the hell do you act like they're liabilities? Well, a big part of it, unfortunately, is that we don't teach things like delayed gratification. We don't teach strategic thinking. We have a culture that sometimes, not all of it, but some of it engages in a lot of pleasure seeking, a lot of short-sighted pleasure seeking behavior. It's all about getting that dopamine up, right? Where it's like, okay, because think about it, like, why would I struggle through a marriage and family and children when I could just go get ass and have orgasms all the time, or sit and smoke my weed, have sex with my hoes, and just do whatever I want to do? And that's all cool and fun when you're 25 years old. But if you're not investing long term for something, then you're going to hit 35 and 40 and realize that you don't have anybody that loves you. Nobody is there for you. Your life, you've not invested in people or anything in your life. So when you start to get a little bit older, like DMX started seeing that when he got old, when DMX was 27, 28, I saw him when he was on tour. It's funny, I got to know Dame and Dash really, really well years later. But back then, I didn't know Dame. I saw that same movie with him and Jay-Z and DMX. They were all on tour. And I was 28, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. This, back then, I thought it would be cool to be a rapper. Now I know better, because I know a lot of rappers. It ain't as cool as you think. But anyway, so Dame and Jay-Z and DMX were on tour. And there was a point where they asked DMX, they said he was in his late 20s. They said, so what do you do while you're on tour? And he said, nothing. He said, smoke all day, fuck all night. Right? And I remember hearing that. And on one hand, as a young man, you're thinking, man, that must be fun. All these women, all this money, whatever. But then you look at what DMX's life became after he hit about between 30 and 35. You start seeing him on the decline, and then you see him in his 40s and he's a complete mess. He's a drug addict. I had a cousin that just died from a drug overdose, who's a cousin who's an entertainer who just died from a drug overdose this week. I'm not making this up. This really did happen in my own family. And so sometimes if you're short-sighted, what you think is success is really the pathway to failure. What you think is heaven is actually hell. You think that God blessed that person when really it was the devil blessing you. The devil can bless you too. As my friend D1 likes to say, the devil's blessings are better than God's blessings, because the devil's blessings come with a lot of dopamine attached and a lot of shiny objects that make you think that you're doing well. So you saw DMX's life kind of just drop like an airplane that was crashing, and then he dies very young, crying on his deathbed. He's crying. He's crying because of things, that trauma that he had as a kid that was never addressed. He's crying because of all the opportunities he wasted, I imagine. And so it was a very tragic outcome. So I just really think, so the reason I speak openly, and I've never cared, I don't watch videos when people, I was really blown away by when I saw how many videos I saw where they would have like 80,000 views saying Dr. Boyce is a simp and stuff like that. And it was very strange to me because these people never met me. They don't know me. They don't know anything about my life, my relationship, none of that. But I speak on some of it because I really want those who want better, who don't want to end up in the trash and don't want your life to end up in the garbage, to just understand the importance of getting away from bad culture. Good culture to me means making a plan. Good culture to me means making a sacrifice. Good culture to me means investing your time into things that matter, investing in people that are going to be there for you later, investing in your health. DMX, smoke all day, fuck all night. That's not going to end well. You're going to have a bunch of diseases. You're going to be a drug addict, and you're going to die early death, and it's going to be humiliating. It's going to be terrible. You're going to die on a bed with nobody around you that cares about you, and it's a horrible ending, right? And I don't know if, I think entertainment's done a horrible job in terms of derailing the black male in really, really, just horrific ways, right? So when I talk about investing, I'm not just talking about money. Money is part of it. Money is an outcome of other choices you make. I'm really talking about all the things that are more important than money, right? So just consider that. To speak on the cousin I told you all about, he was an entertainer. Everybody thought he was doing so great because he went on tour with some group back when he was a teenager. And while he was on tour, they introduced him to cocaine. And during that time, he starts using cocaine as a teenager. He dies over an overdose around the age of 50 because, and then also in the meantime, he hurt a lot of people. He doesn't have the best legacy. His wife ended up leaving him because she couldn't take it anymore. And so now he's dead. He just died this week. And when he died, I talked to my mother about it. And I said, I kind of thought it might end this way when I talked to him 20 years ago, because I listened to him talk about what drugs did to him and how drugs affected him. So generally speaking, when you're talking about things like reparations and you're talking about investment and you're talking about things that were taken from the black community, the drugs probably did about $10 trillion worth of economic damage to the black community, because it didn't just destroy your communities and traumatize your people. Your loss in human capital has been absolutely astonishing. I mean, absolutely mind-boggling. So this is what I see, and what I encourage you to do is step away from all this a little bit, step back and look at it, and try to see. Investors have to have vision, just like a basketball player. A good point guard can see the whole court. A good quarterback can see the whole field. I want you to be a good quarterback of your economic situation. I want you to be a good point guard to sort of look at the whole field, right? And so when you see, or a quarterback, when he's throwing the ball, he doesn't throw the ball to where the receiver is at the moment. He throws it to where the receiver is going to be. When LeBron James makes a pass, he doesn't pass it to where you are. He passes it to where you're going to be, right? So the same thing is true with investing. You don't look at where things are. You got to look at where things are going. You got to look at where things are going to be. So economically speaking, that's what stock market investing does. It's not about where things are right now. It's about where they're going to be. Your economic condition. It's not about how much money you have right now. It's about how much money you're going to have in 5, 10, 15, 20 years by continuing on a certain trajectory, right? The community, when I look at the black community, I'm not looking at where we are in 2023. I'm looking at where we're going to be in 2073. This is what gives me hope. This is what lets me know that we're talking about some major generational moves right now. And so always sort of have that vision. And people that are successful that way tend to be people who can do that. People that practice doing that. People that have the ability to embrace things like delayed gratification. People who have enough pride in themselves that they're not willing to sell themselves out for $1. They're not willing to just go along with the crowd just because everybody else is doing it. If they see something that looks like it's not going to end well, they don't participate in it, right? So when I saw DMX when I was 28 years old and he was saying that on tour, all they do is smoke all day and fuck all night, I remember thinking, this is not going to end well. This man's going to die young, But right now, a lot of people can't see that because all they see is the white man's money and all the glitz and shine and the fame and the glory that comes with being a world famous rapper who just dropped 2 albums that same year that were both #1 on the charts. And nobody else. So he goes to Hollywood or wherever. None of these people that he's around are going to care enough about him to say, hold up, chill out. You do understand how this is going to end for you, right? Nobody really does it. Or if they try to do it, nobody's listening. Because you think those record label executives are going to do that? You think the Hollywood people are going to do that? No, they're going to say, keep going, Negro. You're making us plenty of money. You think when R. Kelly was out here running around, sleeping with 12-year-olds and getting into all kinds of debauchery, but yet his albums are #1. He's the coolest looking guy out there. He's tall, he's handsome, got all the women he wants. He would make songs that literally were almost, I'm not a religious person, but it was almost demonic in the sense that everything stated in his songs was all about pleasure-seeking behavior. Pleasure-seeking behavior is heavily promoted. It was smoke, drink, fuck, waste money, just live your best life in the moment. Don't worry about the future. The future is never going to arrive. Well, if you look at R. Kelly's life, where is R. Kelly now? R. Kelly is crying every night in a prison cell, right? Lost every single penny, lost a lot of his friends, lost his reputation. And a lot of that could have been averted if somebody had been able to get into his head right after he married Aaliyah and helped him understand you can't be out here marrying 14-year-old girls and think that that's going to end well for you. So this is the stuff I'm passionate about, and when I talk about it, the big misconception I have to correct is that people think it has nothing to do with where I have my expertise, like my PhDs in finance, and I tell you it has everything to do with my expertise. In fact, my expertise is what allows me to see the connection. My expertise is what allows me to think carefully and say, what is a good culture that builds wealth? What is a culture that preserves resources and grows those resources? And then I look at our culture and I say, oh, this is not, oh, this ain't, oh, man, R. Kelly could be a billionaire. R. Kelly at the age of 28, one of the greatest singers on the planet, he could die a billionaire and leave enough wealth to take care of his great-great-great-grandkids, or he could die a pauper in prison, where all he's known for is sleeping with little children, right? DMX, two gold, platinum albums, whatever, in the first year that you're released as an artist, selling more albums than the Beatles. Ooh, you can be a multi-billionaire like Jay-Z one day. Or you can end up as a drug addict who dies in his 40s, crying on his deathbed, right? So how's it going to end? That's the big question. That's the question I think everybody should ask in their life. I think you should ask that because every single day you're making these investment choices. R. Kelly could have been the time he invested in chasing little children. He could have invested that time in getting therapy and getting help, because I think that he had a mental health issue. I think that he had probably some trauma. In fact, somebody that I know that knows him says that he was molested as a kid, and that's one of the things that led him to be attracted to young girls, because the first girl he slept with was about 12, so he's always been attracted to women that age. I can empathize with all that to a point, in the sense that that man needed help. And he unfortunately was not surrounded by anybody that either could convince him to get the help or cared about him enough to get him the help he needed. In Hollywood, if they see you're a black man that's making big money, they're not going to confront your problems and confront your addictions. they're just going to enable him. They're going to say, give him some more cocaine so he can keep performing. Because they're not thinking about how it's going to end. They're thinking about what they can get out of you now so that they can then just replace you with somebody else once you die at the age of 40. Okay. So anyway, thank you all for listening to me. I appreciate it. I know that would technically be defined as a rant. So that's what it was. I like my rants sometimes. I hope that they help somebody. Doc, is your options day trade class happening now or coming up? Yeah, we are doing the stock options training camp right now. We're in the middle of it. Everything's recorded. I put a link. If you go to my Telegram page, you can still join us. We did the first class, we're supposed to do two class meetings. We did one for 3 hours, and we're going to do another 3-hour training. But we're going to do a bonus too, because that day, that was when my wife got COVID, and that was when there was all chaos in the house, so I was a little bit late for class. So I decided to give a bonus class, and everything's recorded and it's yours for life, and you can bring your whole family. So if you're interested, just go to drboycetelegram.com. That's drboycetelegram.com. The link is right there. Am I not in Atlanta? Yeah, I can't do the movie premiere because of the COVID thing. So that kind of hit us like a ton of bricks. So for those of you that are in Atlanta, I hope you will still go out and join it. I mean, I think Rick Mathis, Riza Islam is out there, Queen Afua, Madam President's going to be out there. There's so many cool people. So feel free to go to the New Black Wall Street. That's where they're hosting everything. And again, on my Telegram page, that I put the information for the event there, drboycetelegram.com. And also, if you'd like for me to send you profit alerts, just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. And last but not least, oh, there's Madam President. There she is. What's up, girl? How you doing? Do Prime members have access to the training? Yes. Everybody that's in the Prime program gets free access to the stock options training camp. It's for beginners, but if you're not a beginner and you want a refresher and you're in the Prime program, yeah, you can come in for free. The information should be in there. If you log in at drboyceprime.com, you should be able to find it there. Or anybody who's interested, look at drboyceprime.com. And also on Telegram, there's a training called How to Make Money Without Working. You can take a look at that. All right, I got to go, guys. Have a great day. I'm going to go actually check on my wife. It's funny because the COVID hit everybody, but I don't have any symptoms. That's why I'm able to still do what I'm doing. It's that virus is weird, right? And I'm actually going to go watch the track and field world championships. In case y'all don't know, there's like crazy drama. Who is it? Sha'Carri Richardson is beefing with some of the other sprinters right now. Surprise, surprise, right? Sha'Carri Richardson beefing with somebody. Wow, that's not something we would all expect. Anyway, so Sha'Carri's beefing with Gabby Thomas. And Gabby Thomas, because she's kind of she comes off bougie because she's the one that went to Harvard, and Sha'Carri's kind of like hood. But then Gabby, I think Gabby's not as bougie as they think, so she's kind of fighting back. And I just can't wait to see how the World Championships ends out. I'm a big track and field fan. In case y'all don't know, I used to be a track coach. That was how I met one of my adopted kids. I was her track coach, Carmen, back in the day. I met her when she was 9, and now she's 31, and her kids are my grandkids, and I just love her so much. Anyway, so I've always been a big track and field fan, and I saw Gabby Thomas in the airport. I was in the airport and I saw her, and I said, wait a minute, that looks like, I said, no, that can't be her. So I kept going, and then I saw she was wearing New Balance shoes, and I followed her closely enough that I knew she was sponsored by New Balance, because who the hell wears New Balance anyway, right? To be honest with you, right? So I walked up, and she's in line at Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, you're the sprinter, aren't you? And I was totally fanned out, and I took it, it's weird, like normally people are taking selfies with me and stuff, but I was like, yeah, can I get a selfie? And I was like, yeah, I saw your time. That was great. Good luck at the World Championships. I said, you ran 21.6, didn't you? She said, yeah. And I said, yeah, Sha'Carri Richardson was running good, but I knew you were going to beat her because I know it. Because you get them long legs going. So the scandal or the controversy now, I'm talking track and field now, because we done left them. I'll come back and we'll do more financial stuff later. I hope it's okay. But anyway, the big controversy is Sha'Carri believes that only 100-meter dash runners should be on the 4x1, whereas Gabby Thomas should definitely be on the 4x1 because she got those long legs. and she can run that straightaway. Allison Felix did that too back in the day. Those long legs and the straightaway on the 4x1, that's the longest leg, the second leg. So Gabby should be running the second leg. I say this as a track coach. That's how much I'm into track and field. So if you want to go check out the World Championships, you should watch it because I think that there's like this beef growing between Gabby and Sha'Carri. And Sha'Carri is running very well this year, by the way. If you haven't been following, Sha'Carri Richardson has done a really great job of her comeback. And I think that she should probably stop beefing because it only feeds into this reputation that she has of being a little bit too ratchet. And the problem is that that's going to make sponsors not want to deal with you. Like, and this is a business. Again, this is everything ties back to economics. Sha'Carri Richardson could have signed $30 million worth of sponsorship deals even after she got busted for the weed. Because once they put her on Good Morning America, and everybody, the whole country empathized. They're like, oh, it was just cannabis and this is racism. That ain't right. She could have signed like some major deal with a cannabis company. I mean, just like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg's probably making $40 million a year, endorsing cannabis brands. Sha'Carri could do the same thing. But Sha'Carri, in her poor behavior, like the way she poorly handled getting her ass whooped by the Jamaicans. Y'all remember that? The Jamaicans, don't play with the Jamaicans. They're some badass women. She just, her that lack of emotional discipline probably cost her like at least 30-40 million. And again, she has a right to talk her shit or whatever, but I think that was just the wrong time. I mean, you're live on NBC. Like, you can't go cussing when you're live on NBC. So, but here's the thing. Here's another, since we're talking about Sha'Carri and track and my favorite stuff, track and money. Sha'Carri could probably beat most of the Jamaican women. That's how good Sha'Carri is now. And I don't know why she was so slow that day. I have my theories, honestly. I think a lot of athletes are doping, to be honest with you. Like in track and field, I think a lot of them take stuff, but the public doesn't know this because they want to believe everybody's natural. That's bullshit. A lot of these athletes are doping, right? And I wonder if that might have been the reason why Sha'Carri had a bad day. But now that she's back to normal, Sha'Carri is running really fast, and I think she could actually beat Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, possibly. And also, if you remember, if you saw last year, the American women beat the Jamaicans in the 4x1, and TT Terry, who was on the anchor leg, was getting chased down by Shericka Jackson. Like, she almost beat her. Like, Shericka was like clawing her back, like reeling her in like a fishing pole all the way to the end. If Sha'Carri had been running in TT's place, that wouldn't have happened because Sha'Carri can beat Shericka Jackson. That's how fast she is. So I hope they get this relay thing fixed because the women, the American women, are really talented, and I think Gabby Thomas mixed with Sha'Carri Richardson is going to be really powerful. And what I also found, this is the last little tidbit I'm throwing. I know some of y'all don't give a shit, but I'm talking about, so I'm gonna finish. But the other piece is that I think that Sha'Carri's team, I think TT Terry is on Sha'Carri's team. Now TT Terry is the lady who almost got beat on that relay team. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but TT Terry should not be on that relay team. That's my point. As a track coach, I would say no. But Sha'Carri is on the same team as TT, so I think that their coach Dennis Mitchell wants both of them on the relay team. And I'm sitting there thinking, no, TT's not good enough. Right? Sha'Carri's good enough, but TT's not good enough, and that's the whole beef. So go check it out. I think you might find it interesting. Or Google it a little bit, and it's an interesting thing. And I think it's also good because these little rivalries in women's sports, they do a lot for getting the attention these ladies deserve. They're so talented, and they don't get any of the respect that they truly deserve. And if you remember, that the girl at LSU, I forget her name, but you know what I'm talking about, who did this with the finger. She really elevated women's sports big time. Like people are going to be watching the women's NCAA tournament a whole lot more because of that. So I think Sha'Carri, if she manages her behavior a little bit, like, because she's got a little FloJo in her, like she could be kind of like a FloJo-ish kind of character. She just needs to rein it in. She could be great for women's track and field, and I follow it already because they're so talented, but I don't think enough people do. So anyway, Angel Reese, that's her name. Yeah, Angel Reese. Let me tell you about Angel Reese. It's so crazy. They asked her if she was going to the WNBA, and she said, I don't think so because I'm already making so much money on social media. Like, I think Angel Reese is clocking $5 to $10 million a year just off her brand. And this is a good business lesson. A lot of, people think sports are all about who's got talent and all that. No, it ain't about the talent. It's the branding. It's the brand. Why do you think that a college basketball game, can make more money than an NBA game. The players are not better. It's because of the brand. People want to see Duke against North Carolina or whatever. Or the players. They know the players because I went to University of Kentucky and I follow all the Kentucky players. Right? It's the branding. It's not just the talent. Right? Same thing in music. Like Beyonce, her tour is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Taylor Swift is going to make $1 billion. It's not because they're the only two women that can sing. Like I personally know women. Like there's a lady named El Shaddai, who's another young person I've kind of mentored through the years. You should follow her on TikTok. She sings better than all those women. Like she's that damn good. She's amazing. But a lot of people don't know who she is. Well, why? Well, because she doesn't. She's not the brand that a Beyonce is, or the brand that a Taylor Swift is. So it's not just the talent; it's the branding. Beyonce is a multi-billion-dollar product, and she's no different from Reese's Pieces or Nike sneakers or Colgate, Colgate toothpaste, right? And the brand makes a brand promise. The brand has a certain impression that it makes on people. If you go to a Beyonce concert, why do people spend lots of money to see Beyonce live when they could just watch her on YouTube or they could just listen to her on the radio? It's because the Beyonce experience of being at her concert makes people feel a certain way. They feel more powerful. They come to the concert, they're dressed up. My sister went to see Beyonce in Nashville and then went to see her again the next week in Chicago because she feels a certain way when she's in that space. So that's branding in a nutshell. So if you're building a business or trying to do something financially or whatever, think about the branding aspect and just understand the brand is more important than almost like anything else, right? So that's my 2 cents. I hope this conversation was helpful to you. I know I went on some tangents, but y'all know how I am. That's what I do, and I really appreciate you all for listening to me. And my website is boycewatkins.com. There's a lot of free resources there if you want to go take a look at that. Also, if you'd like to get the profit alert sent to you via text, just text the word "stock" to 31996. I'm about to check out, y'all. I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with me. And one day I'll come back in I tend to do my rants on the weekend, so I hope that's okay. So I'll do another one pretty soon. So God bless y'all. Take care. Peace.